All right, let's get right into it. On the surface, you could not find two politicians who seem more different. But we're going to unpack a really interesting idea today. That Ron Paul, the ultimate libertarian, and Bernie Sanders, the democratic socialist, are kind of like political twins.
I know, it sounds crazy, right? One guy wants to basically abolish the government, the other wants the government to do a whole lot more. So where in the world do these two overlap? Well, the answer tells you a ton about how modern politics actually work. You know, according to political activist Matt Kibbe, who was a big organizer in the Tea Party movement, the similarities are actually pretty striking. For starters, they both have that kind of cranky, get-off-my-lawn persona. They're both fiercely anti-war. They've both built their entire careers on railing against the establishment. And maybe most importantly, people see them as the real deal, as authentic, because they've been saying the exact same things for decades. So you see, it's not just about their personalities. A huge part of their success came from using an almost identical playbook for building these insurgent grassroots movements that totally went after the leadership in their own parties. Let's break down how they did it. Okay, so this formula is really the key to their appeal. Number one, authenticity. In a political world full of focus groups, these guys are seen as the genuine article. Number two, technology. Both of their movements were brilliant at using the internet to organize people and raise money, completely bypassing the old party bosses. And number three, they both rage against the machine. And listen to the problems they point out. A system rigged for corporate insiders, endless pointless wars, and a government that spies on its own people. Sound familiar? And to really get that technology point, just think back to the Ron Paul campaign's online money bombs. Kibbe says those were a total game changer. It was really one of the first times you could actually see and measure all this raw anger from everyday voters, proving that an outsider could actually raise enough money to be a real threat. But, and this is a huge but, for all the things they agree on, for all their shared tactics, their paths split completely when you get to the most important question of all. What's the solution? This is where everything changes. Think about this for a second. Kibbe makes this fantastic point that you could put Ron Paul or Bernie Sanders on a stage, and for 95% of the speech, you wouldn't know who was talking. They'd be attacking the crony capitalists, the military-industrial complex, the loss of our privacy. The diagnosis of what's wrong with the country sounds exactly the same. And boom, there it is, the punchline. After this whole speech about all the problems that were caused by, or at least made worse by, powerful centralized government, Bernie's solution is more powerful centralized government. That is the fundamental split. It's not about the disease, it's about the cure. Now, Kibbe actually has a term for this. He calls it cognitive dissonance. That's that weird mental gymnastics you have to do when you hold two contradictory ideas in your head at the same time. In this case, it's raging against problems created by big government and then turning around and saying the only solution is even bigger government. So as you can probably guess, this huge difference in solutions leads to two totally different kinds of political movements. The way they're built, who joins them, and how long they last, it's all shaped by these opposite philosophies. If you look back at the Tea Party, you can see this clear story arc. It exploded onto the scene with all the energy from Ron Paul's 2008 campaign. It hit its peak with these huge protests and big election wins in 2010. But then, as Kibbe tells it, opportunistic politicians, and especially Donald Trump, came along and basically shattered that coalition. So what was the glue that held it all together for that long? Well, Kibbe argues it wasn't a person, it was a set of ideas. You could walk up to almost anyone at a Tea Party rally, and they would tell you they believed in three basic things: individual liberty, fiscal responsibility, and a government that was strictly limited by the Constitution.
And this is where Kibbe draws a really sharp contrast. He says that while the Tea Party was held together by this common philosophy, he sees the modern progressive coalition as something different. He describes it as more of a collection of different grievance groups and identity silos, all sort of huddled under one big tent, but not necessarily united by a single, coherent set of principles.
So given all this, how can ideas about liberty and free markets even compete in today's world, especially with a younger generation? Well, Kibbe's argument is that it's not about winning a debate over policy points. It's about telling a much, much better story. He brings up Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's famous campaign video as the perfect example. The reason that video went viral wasn't because it had a 10-point policy plan. No, it was this powerful, emotional, populist story. It connected with millions of people who felt like the system was totally rigged against them. So the strategy he lays out for liberty advocates is to learn from that. First, start from the same place. Agree that the system is broken and corrupt. Second, tell a new story. Reframe the free market not as capitalism, but as this amazing bottom-up story of people voluntarily cooperating to help each other. And third, use simple metaphors that people can actually relate to in their daily lives. And this is his absolute favorite metaphor. Beer is freedom. It's just a brilliant, simple way to make a big idea feel real. I mean, think about it. The incredible craft beer scene we have today didn't come from some 5-year government plan. It came from thousands of people being free to choose, to risk their own money, to create something new, and yeah, sometimes to fail. It's a perfect product of a free and voluntary system.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big question to chew on. When someone calls themselves a socialist or a libertarian these days, are they really subscribing to a deep, consistent ideology? Or is it more about choosing a team, picking an identity that basically says, I'm with the people who are angry about the way things are? Now, if you want to dig way deeper into all of this, the source for this explainer recommended these classic books on the subject. They're a pretty heavy-duty starting point for anyone who really wants to get into the weeds. Thanks so much for tuning in.